back in the GT3 machine here at Dragon Trail after a little bit of a break. As you can see on your screen, Infinity Decals scored a pole position. Let's see if he can be leading the field down towards turn 1. A very short run downhill here. He gets a good start, so does Phil in the Viper. Myself in the Mercedes, I started 4th, I'm already up to 3rd. And it is the Dodge Viper of Phil that gets a great start, followed by myself in P2. Infinity Decals battling with Terence for 3rd now. I think Terence might get a little bit of a run on him. He has indeed. Infinity Decals might actually have to back out of this one as we come through the death chicane in reverse for the first time. I'm asking lots of danger and peril going through this section of track. As you can see, one of the Aston Martins giving the wall a good slap there, but as we enter the second hairpin for the first time, it is Phil leading the way, followed by myself. Then it's Terence in 3rd, Infinity Decals, followed by Ice Chand. There's a good old battle here going on between James Harbin, Surf Rev and Sea Trickle. Surf Rev then gives Sea Trickle a little bit of a tap, Sea Trickle then gives James a little bit of a tap. It's all getting a little bit squibbly down here, the grass getting kicked up, that's from the Porsche. Infinity Decals, who is hassling Terry now for that lead position. I looked to go around Phil there, didn't make that move happen in the end. It's Surf Rev and James Harbin fighting away. James in that McLaren F1 GTR. There's a great squealing thing that you'll do nothing but hear. That always he gets it a little bit squirrely there. The two 3Ws had a terrible start there, down pretty much at the back. Fat Pickles Bro, who was having internet issues all evening, has severely affected his night. We'll just see what James Harbin does here on the Aston Martin. That McLaren F1 just walks past everything in a straight line, but Surfer very late on the brakes, does end up going quite deep, does recover it. James is going to try and rescue that, then going through towards the chicane of death once again. Let's see if everyone makes it through this time. We get a decent angle here to see. Oh, we've got James Harbin, Infinity Decals, who looked like he was getting a bit sideways. We have got Haz91. What happened to the VW driver? He was following Fat Pickles Bro. Gets out the throttle nice and early. Just taps the wall though, unfortunately, and that's the thing though. If you one slight little tap of that wall and you are done, dusted, and forevermore gone. So it's Phil leading the way still. Lots of nice little battles kicking off though. Surf Rev's just managed to escape James Harbin temporarily. James has been dealing with Gemini. Sea Trickle's trying to close Gemini down, so the Dane trying to make his way through. We've got grass getting kicked up yet again. I think it's from Terry. And Infinity Decals fighting away yet again. Infinity Decals, who did start this race on pole, had some great pace in practice as well, so he was showing some real promise. Gemini up to 8th then, as we said before. And the VW has 91 starting just to recover now. Meanwhile, I have closed down on the Viper Sniper of Phil. Although at the minute, what we're both doing really, and I had a look at his onboard afterwards just to see if he was doing what I suspected he was, and he was. We were both just fuel saving at the front. So it was kind of a mutual agreement, I think, between me and Phil after a certain time that we just wouldn't fight each other anymore. We would just look to break away a little bit. Infinity Decals are looking to make a move on Terence, but he's just Terence is turning late. Was like that. Unfortunately, made it through unscathed. Ice Champ having a very good race so far, up in 5th. Broke away from his teammate Surf Rev. You can hear the McLaren scream its way down. That BMW V12 engine on board, that thing will scream its way around. Gemini losing places now. He's lost place to Mutt. He's going to try and get that place back straight away. And he's got Marshall coming up his backside as well. Fat Pickles Bro 12th. Fat Pickles Bro coming into this one has a commanding lead in the championship. over myself. I do go for a look on Phil. I had a really good run there. It was sort of idiotic not to go for that move. Phil didn't defend it. Again, I think we at this moment in time, we're just looking to work together a little bit, as daft as it sounds. We've got Terry closing us up, we've got Infinity Decals as well. The top 5 pretty close together at the minute. SimFx not far away behind that. Then we've got James Harbour and Sea Trickle. Then there's a little bit more of a gap to Mutt Marshall, who's 10th, and Gemini, Fat Pickles, and Has91. So coming down to start lap number 4. It's getting very close again. Oh, Terence there looking for a move on Phil. Phil was very late on the race. Terence has instead lost a place to the Porsche Infinity Decals. And you can see he's dropped quite a way back then. So Infinity Decals currently holds the fastest lap of the race at 38.9. Gives the wall a bit of a slap there. Infinity Decals' strat here was just quali laps all the way through. He wasn't bothering with any fuel saving, nothing like that, and that strategy has worked for him before, so it's certainly not a bad strategy, especially at a track like this where fuel's pretty critical and it's usually the limiting factor for most drivers. Don't like it on the Mercedes, you can't see anything past that gigantic rear wing. So it's Terry that keeps kicking up dust, look. So at the minute, Terry holding on to that 3rd spot. Ice Chan now past Infinity Decals. When did that move happen? Oh, it must have happened a little while ago. Oh yeah, on the entrance to this corner, look. So Ice Chan just looks to he gets a great exit out of here and just gets the drive past the Porsche. So a nice move there by Ice Chan. And gets himself up to P5. I do love the noise that McLaren makes. And in a straight line, nigh on unbeatable. It's just not the greatest car in the corner. I'm sure James Harbour will probably comment on this video or mention something about it, but yeah, it suffers quite a lot in the corners. It just doesn't quite have the turning. You haven't quite got the rotation really on the front to really trust that car will stick in the corners, so therefore your apex speed's a little bit lower, but you do have mighty amount of power in the straights. So me and Phil then starting to break away a little bit from Terence. In terms of strategy, my strategy before the race was a 9-lap stint on softs, 3-lap stint on mediums, and 2 9-lap stints on softs. But I switched that up a little bit, and I'll go through it in a little bit more detail. I didn't change it too much, but I made some slight tweaks as we went through. Phil gets his way past again. My turn 1 was really scruffy. I had a really tidy turn 1. And got really good drive out there, did Phil, and I didn't fight him too much. I left it off and let him go through. We didn't really want to go side by side through here. Oh, Terry's had a bit of an off. What's happened to Terry? Is this on board with the number 82 Mercedes? He taps the wall. He does what Has did. Just some ghosts as well in front of Surf Rev. I think Surf Rev ended up giving him a tap. And he's come out right next to James Harbour, and James and Sea Trickle are going to try and have a look at Terence. Terence, of course, carrying a little bit of damage now in that Mercedes, so that'll be affecting his front aero and suspension components on the front of that car. James Harbour's really lost out there. He's trying to hustle away past. There is no room at the inn. At the minute, Terry is pushing that Mercedes hard, just trying to recover some lost ground then. Meanwhile, a little bit further up, Infinity Decals and Ice Chan still fighting away for that P3 spot. Side by side then through the last hairpin. Coming towards the final chicane. It's got to be Ice Chan who's got the inside line for this one. But he backs out of it and lets Infinity Decals go through. That does let Surf Rev catch him up, so they're infighting, and Terence's incident has basically allowed me and Phil just to scamper away into the distance, and I'm quite happy with this. I can sit in this slipstream or I can leave. I'm saving fuel either way. We're not really causing each other too much grief, me and Phil. You can see he didn't fight me there, I didn't fight him the lap before. There's not really too much point. We'd only slow each other down, and we might as well have that fight a little bit later on if it happens. So Team Lemon and Lime, the two Aston Martins, starting to fight away a little bit. So Surfer Ev now leads this contingent of British machinery. Then we've got Terence, who's recovering from that wall slap a little bit ago. We've got Sea Trickle 7th now. James Harbin down to 8th. He's not had the best of luck so far in this race. Then we've got Marshall 9th place for Marshall with Gemini in 10th, Has91 in 11th and Mutt in 12th. You may notice that we're missing a Porsche, and that is the Porsche belonging to Fat Pickles Bro. Unfortunately, he had a disconnect issue at this point in the race. It's basically where your internet connection drops out, and because we're online gaming, that's game over really. What's Terry doing all the way out there? He's really pushing that all the way down. So going down the S's pretty much every single time I've seen Terry come down there, he's ran his left hand side on the gravel. He's running a bit of a risk with that. The two VWs having a bit of a torrid time out as well. They have started on mediums though, so they're getting the slow tyre out the way early. So again, that may see them recover room later on. Again, Phil and me, we're just not fighting. If he wants the inside for this, he tucks back in, he might go back out for it. He backs out the move. We have got Infinity Decals, who's popped in a slightly faster lap as well, of 38.7. So he is properly going for it right now. Just 10 minutes into the race so far, so a fifth of the way through this one. Most drivers on or below half a tank's worth of fuel, so fuel is going to be the major issue here. If you can save a good amount of fuel, that will benefit you hugely in your strategy. Terence again gets it wrong coming through the death chicane. James Hartman, Surfer, what's Surfer? What's happened to Surfer? Oh, what have you done? Spin me right round, baby, right round. So unfortunately that's dropped Surfer from a highest position to a P7 with a sea trickle all up his backside as well. So unfortunately that's put him right in the clear. And Sea Trickle had some pace here. Like in practice, him and Infinity Decals were sharing honours for fastest laps in practice. So he had some really good pace. So I was interested to see how that would translate to race pace. Marshall and Gemini having a nice little battle as well. Gemini actually popping out for a nice move down the inside, gets that move made before they exit the Toyota, struggles up the hill as well, so if the Viper got that move made there, we will pull a couple of attempts on the Toyota up the hill. We've also got Has91 on the medium tyre. These guys are running quite a while on the mediums, which I've got to be honest, I'm kind of surprised to see. The mediums aren't a good tyre around here. I think most of us didn't want to spend that long on the mediums if we could help it. Really were faced with losing about a second and a half a lap on that medium tyre, so that the less time you could spend on it, the better. So yeah, 11 and a bit minutes in. My original plan called for me to pit at the end of lap 9, but a caveat to that was having a gap to come back out into, because I didn't want to come out in loads of traffic. That would have been counterproductive to my plan, so that's why I switched my strategy up a little bit, because I spot a gap. Sea Trucker then willing to go for the cutback here on Surfer F. Surfer gets to the apex in time and cuts that off. Does everyone survive it through here? They do. Well, I'm back past, oh no, I'm still in front of Phil. So Terry now trying to put Ice Chand under a little bit of pressure, so the Aston Martin now. Terry shoots up the inside but goes a little bit deep. So nice composure there by Ice Chan, not to get too put off by the flying Mercedes. Terry either going for an ambitious move or just a little bit light on the brakes. And again, looks to be carrying quite a lot of speed down this hill, does he? Touch the gravel once more. Nearly. So Surfer's managing to escape Sea Trickle's attention just a little bit. Marshall's dropped down behind Mutt and has 91 all the way down at the back. So he's had a bit of a torrid time as has 91 this lap. So I'm guessing he's probably def chicaned it again. So meanwhile at the top of the grid, myself and Phil still just working away. No real issues for either of us. We're just fuel saving and plumping our laps. We have got Infinity Decals absolutely on a charge behind us as well. Oh, and then Terence gets himself up to 4th place, so a nice little slipstream move by the Mercedes there up the inside of the Aston Martin. Nice and light on the brakes. Ice Chan I think saw that one coming, and Terence goes up the inside. Side by side for the left chicane. Someone's going to have to give it, boys. This, and I think Terence, does he give out? Yeah, he just lets Ice Chan take that position. And both drivers live to fight another day. James Harbour's licking his lips at this prospect though, because the more these guys fight, the better it is for him. He's just set his fastest lap of the race. That McLaren's starting to get quicker now. He's lighter on fuel. So obviously I've mentioned this before, but the fuel loads directly correlate to pace. So a litre of fuel, about a kilo in weight, there or thereabouts, as I kick up a cloud of dust. So you start with 100 litres. Oh, Terry, just be careful. You start with 100 litres, and that's 100 kilos basically. And these cars that are stripped out performance machines, 100 kilos can mean a lot in terms of your race pace. Just looking at fuel levels as I skip through, me and Phil, I've got a little bit more than him, just over 25%. Phil at about a quarter of a tank, just under. So I was meant to pit now, but didn't, because for me the gap wasn't there. Infinity Decals does pit. Terence carries on, so does James Harbour. James has got a good amount of fuel left as well, about the same as me. So he did a really good job in that McLaren, and speaking to him after the race, he was basically just coasting behind other cars, because that McLaren had so much pace in a straight line, he didn't need to he didn't really need to rev the car out. He was just short shifting behind other cars and coasting. So good effort for James there. We are starting to see some pit stops take place, so this will mix the order up a little bit, probably make it a little bit harder to follow, but it will all come together sort of towards the final 10 minutes or so of the race. As Infinity Decals now comes out, this is the problem, he's out in traffic, so he's now stuck behind a Viper. While he's on fresh softs, and he will want to be getting on with this. Ice Chan's got a full tank softs for him as well, so is Sea Trickle. Marshall's got a full tank on his mediums now, so he's getting these tyres out of the way. Mutt's now on softs, so is Has 91, so the VWs might start to clamber some of that time back. Because of all these pit stops now, there are gaps. So hence I just waited for an extra lap. I felt I was still developing good pace on the softs. Still chomping in 39s with fuel saving, so yeah, quite happy with that. So now I just wanted to get my medium tyre out of the way. So me and Phil are both going to come into the pits. James Harbour, though, who has been monstrously fuel saving throughout the entire first stint, also doing 39s with that first stint, assumes the lead of the race. So he's going to come out just ahead of me, although he does have worn softs now, so even with worn mediums I should catch up to, even with mediums I should catch up to him relatively quickly. Phil fuels for a big stint on softs, so he's taking mediums later on in the race, so this is where our strategies differ out a little bit. and then Infinity Decals, who's quali lapping, out in 4th. I think most cars now have pitted, so we'll get an idea of where everyone sort of sits. Surfer 5th, Gemini in 6th. Gemini hasn't pitted yet. Monstrous fuel saving effort from the Dane there. He's still got a quarter of a tank, so he's just been cruising around in Prius mode. So he's doing a grand job with his fuel. Ice John out as well in 7th. We've got C-Trickle 8th now, with Terrence in 9th. Marshall 10th. Mutt 11th, and Has 91 in 12th. So I've actually rewound the action here a little bit, just because I clocked something that made me a little bit suspicious. So watch the car ahead. That is Terry. And fortunately for James Harben, Terry doesn't collide with him. So again, the Mercedes just carried a little bit too much speed down here. Very, very big risk of this happening to anyone, and it didn't take much for it to happen, but just a little bit too much pace carried. Fortunately, it glitched. Not glitched, it ghosted. But that had put Terry quite a way down the order, unfortunately, because he's got damage and he's lost a lot of time as well. About to see another victim of the sweeping right-hander of doom here at Dragon Trail Seaside. Gemini does the exact same thing as Terry a lap or so earlier. Then perfectly pirouettes it. Unfortunately, stays ghosted again. James Harben yet again getting a brown trouser moment because of a car spinning there, but he successfully avoids it. C-Trickle went to overtake it, just went a little bit deep. Gemini able to carry on ahead of him. Gemini though has not yet pitted, so he's rocking 7th place at the minute. Hasn't pitted at all, really extending this this stint as long as he possibly can. Taking it longer than anyone else has. So he will probably come in. I was going to say now, but he's going to take it another lap, and we're going to go 3 wide then down at turn 1. Gemini on the inside, we've got C-Trickle, we've got Terry involved in that as well. Terry just gets around the outside. Can he get the corner speed? Terry, I think he's on mediums. Yes, he is, and he gets out ahead of Gemini. Let's jump on board the Viper and just see how he navigates the chicane of death. Right up the backside of the Mercedes. Actually has to get out of it then to prevent himself from hitting the Mercedes ahead, because the Mercedes got a little bit of a war slap on. A little bit further back we've got Mutt 36 now in 10th with Marshall in 11th. Marshall's starting to glitch a little bit. I wonder if he's starting to suffer from internet issues. And then we've got Has 91 in 12th, but these boys now starting to knock in decent lap times, so we might yet see things happen from these guys. What else is going on? So myself, mediums, I could have pitted this lap off. Yeah, this was the lap I could have pitted for my mediums, because you've got to do 3 laps on them in total, an out lap, a full lap, and then an in lap. But I chose to do a 4th because I felt they were alright. I wanted to maximise my fuel, to be honest. So I've got Phil out in 2nd. He is closing me down by a couple of attempts a lap, but he's on soft, so to be fair, that's to be expected. Infinity Decals right up his chuff as well. Infinity Decals now on a 38.2 for his fastest lap, so he's properly going for it, is Infinity Decals. Aston Martins have just pitted, although they might be on contra strategies. So James Harben has just been in. He's got rid of his mediums now, I think, as well. He's now on softs to the end. And Surfer have 7th for Surfer after pitting to get rid of his medium tyres as well. So a lot of different things happening in the race. Like I said, the strategies for everyone was doing something slightly different. So it was always going to be difficult to figure out what was going to happen at the end of the race. It was up and down all the time, really. So we've got Phil and Infinity Decals still out. So these guys will assume the lead and Peter of the race, because I'm going to pit now. So I'm now got rid of my medium tyres. That's the slow tyre out of the way. That's that done and dusted as my pit crew go to work. Get rid of that tyre for me. And I will now get some good fuel on board the car, and I'll go for some we'll go for some decent laps on softs again. I will come out, as you can see there, I'll come out ahead of Ice Chand just about, with James Harbin in it. So James has just put his fastest lap of the race down a 39.2. Considering he's fuel saving as well. Most people are quite heavily fuel saving at this point. So yeah, now we're just starting to see people's strategies work out. As Terence, who has just pitted, goes to get past Marshall, who is running his mediums. So that's Terence now up to 10th. And we've got Gemini out on the mediums now. He's pitted, and yeah, mediums for Gemini. I wonder if he's going to just try and one stop it, while the rest of us are 2 and even 3 stopping it at times. Oh, nice little battle going on at the top here. I want to rewind this a sec. What gives Infinity Decals the speed there? I think Phil goes a little. Oh, look at the speed Infinity Decals carries through there. Incredible pace, and straight down the inside of the Viper. Now I was watching this happen on, because I could tell this was going on by the time deltas, because whenever these guys started squabbling, it was helping me out. Because the more time I can gather on these two now is going to pay off for me later. My strategy entirely depended on Phil getting a little bit more traffic than I did, and he's come out next to Infinity Decals, who is on a charge. So these two are going to carry on fighting, are they? No, they are okay for the time being. And then yeah, you can see me just ahead of Ice Chand and James Harbin. Those two are going to have to pit at some point. And fortunately for me, I am starting to pull away just a little bit from those guys. So I'm not giving those guys any sort of slipstream, which I didn't want to end up doing. I didn't want to drag myself into a fight I didn't need to be involved in. And the battle for the lead, though, could be getting quite spicy. Very close indeed between Infinity Decals and Phil. Music to my ears, this though. And I'm still out in 3rd. Fully expecting these guys to have to consider a pit stop in the next handful of laps. When that happens, I was hoping to overhaul them. In fact, if it's Infinity, no, they're not going to pit now. I think Infinity Decals is going to go for as long as he can on this tank of fuel. He will probably get another lap or 2 out of that at least. But very close in the battle for the lead of the race. I'm just keeping an eye on the time screens. An almighty lot slipstream fest going on here between Chand and James Harbin. James and the McLaren not able to launch himself past. I've just seen Phil's got past Infinity Decals at the chicane there. What's happened? Did Phil get it wrong at the sorry, did Infinity Decals get it wrong through the chicane? Let's have a quick look. So the risk is the wall on the outside. Oh, he's proper slapped that. He's got front and rear damage somehow. I don't know how that's happened because I'm pretty sure he nose hit it. In fact, let's go on board Phil's view of this. So he backs out. Yeah, I'm not remotely sure how I'm not remotely sure how we got rear damage from that, but there we go. Fortunately, they've got enough of a gap over me. He didn't have to worry about me getting past him, but that has taken him out of the battle for the lead at the minute, and that damage plainly causing him hassle right now. So a little bit of a recap as we have hit the halfway point of the race. So it's Phil leading, Infinity Decals second, myself in third. Ice Chand is fourth, just ahead of James Harbin in fifth, and the McLaren, the F1's first outing in the championship. Then we've got C-Trickle and the Toyota. He's in sixth for that one. Surf Rev seventh, just ahead of Mutt 36 in eighth. Has 91 in ninth. So yeah, the VW is starting to come out a little bit now. Terence in 10th, with Marshall in 11th. Yeah, I can see a little bit of glitching going on for the Toyota there as he gets a boot full of oversteer coming out the hairpin, and then Gemini in 12th. But we do think Gemini is no stopping. Is one stopping, sorry. So every time everyone else stops, he'll just gain time. That's pretty much all. His teammate though, opposite end of the field for his teammate Phil. P1 at the minute, 18 laps gone. Probably a couple more laps before he has to pit again. We know that Viper's good for about 10-11 laps on a tank of fuel, so he might be able to stretch this one out. Infinity Decals carried on. Does he get the chicane of death right this time? He does indeed. A little bit of a wall tap, but nothing too dramatic. I've just done my fastest lap of the race of 38.9. Again, I just wasn't pushing it too much. Just trying to keep it pretty consistent on the softs. And that's the story of the race so far, with 20 minutes remaining. So leader of the race peels off into the pits. So he's got, he was minimal on fuel, 4%. He's got to take his mediums yet, don't forget. Something I've got out of the way. But I am going to have to pit again for my last stint on the soft tyre. So Phil does take the medium tyre now. Infinity Decals is taking the medium now. So he's getting that out of the way. And yeah, Phil comes out ahead of me. He doesn't take a full tank of fuel on, of course. You don't really ever do that when you're on mediums, unless you're planning on running it long. Phil's obviously not doing that, so he's just going to do 3 or 4 laps on that medium tyre, come in and finish the race strong on softs. So he has got me behind him for company. I'm on softs. I'm still a few laps into my stint yet. We've got about another 10 laps of the race remaining. So I can't remember what I was thinking at this point in terms of when I'd pit. I just knew it wasn't going to be quite yet. About 17, 18 minutes left of this race remaining, so yeah, it was too early for me to pit again for my last set of softs, so I was going to leave it till about 10-15 minutes were remaining. Have a look at the gaps, of course, but the gaps at the minute weren't a major issue. I am right on the back of Phil now. Of course, I'm on softs, he's on mediums. Similar fuel levels between the two of us, but I've got a tyre advantage, so in theory this pass for me should be relatively straightforward because I've got a better tyre. And indeed you can see the Viper's just struggling for lateral grip there, and with the slipstream I may get a move down into T1. Shall we have a look? And then we'll recap action through the field. Well, most drivers are spaced out. There's a couple that are pretty close, but we'll go through that in a second. I don't really get that much of a good slipstream on Phil through that, so I might have to be patient for my move. We'll come back and have a look. So we've got Infinity Decals out in the mediums. I'd expect him to pit in end of this lap to get rid of them. He should then go on softs and he'll probably make them last towards the end of the race. We'll see. Monsieur Harbin, probably pit soon for him as well. Glorious sounding McLaren. see him go to the end. So he's 4th at the minute, and yet I have just got past Phil. So let me just have a little bit of a rewind. How did that happen? So coming through the death chicane. Yeah, just got better corner speed through here basically. Nice and straightforward overtake. Again, Phil does it. Credit to Phil. He doesn't fight that too much. It'll slow us both down. He's just going to slipstream me instead. He might as well use my car rather than fight against it at this minute in time. So good racing from Phil. I think overall that strategy would have been quicker than fighting with me. Infinity Decals are predictably, yeah, he's going to pit this lap. James, not sure when he'll pit. He's got enough fuel to carry on, but he might choose to just come in now. Sea Trickle's on his mediums, but again he will need to. He's just come in for those looking at it, so he's just getting rid of them. Ice Chan's been on them for a couple of laps, I think. Surfer, has he got to take the mediums yet? I think he has. I'm not sure if he's took his mediums yet. I might be wrong. I might have missed it. Curious to see where Infinity Decals comes out. What's he going to do with his fuel? So he's going to come out behind James, but he's got this almighty gap to come into, so he'll come out ahead of Sea Trickle, I should imagine. And then when James eventually pits, Infinity Decals should get above him as well. Me and Phil, again, Phil's doing a grand job of just sitting in my toe. This is helping him out. So while he's on his mediums, he's getting the slipstream of a car ahead. It means he won't be as slow on this set of tyres, and we've both again got to stop again. So again, could be quite close between us. So actually, Sea Trickle and Ice Chan get out ahead of Infinity Decals. Looks like he's taking his fuel to the end now. So Dave is the first driver that I can see that is pitting to the end. The next one being Terence, who is now fighting against Mutt. I think Mutt will have to pit again. I think. Because the VWs aren't the greatest on fuel, so I'd be very surprised if that thimble fuel tank that the VW's got fitted to it will last until the end of the race. Has that one? Not too sure. We'll see how it plays out. Of course, it could all go wrong yet. Right, so I think Mr. Phil will probably pit this lap, will he? No, he's going to carry on behind me. So 7 laps remain for us now. James Harbin does pit. Does he come out ahead of this lot? Sea Trickle's going to have to pit as well, so it's whether he comes out ahead of Infinity Decals. I think Infinity Decals will come out ahead of James, to be fair. And then Ice Chand, he'll probably pit this lap as well. Yeah, he is. So will Surfer. So out comes the McLaren. Screaming that V10 out. Is it V10 or V12? Could be V12, you know, I could be wrong about that. Yeah, and I think me and Phil will pit this lap as well. All to play for, and who knows how this will end up. We've got about 10 minutes remaining in this one. A little bit of strategy left to factor in. We've got Mutt and Terence now fighting. A little bit of lag there from Mutt. So Terence is now in a VW sandwich. VW had to give room now. I think Terence just had a genuinely faster line into the corner, so Mutt has to give room. Let's have that one through. Right, so leaders pit then. I've got a little bit more fuel than Phil, so that's going to help me out in the next stage, because I won't need to put as much in. Right, and I was banking on this being 30 laps as well. So I put in just enough fuel to get me to the end, plus a half a lap. So out I come, out Phil comes. What's the gap? So gap now between us is 3.5 seconds really. You can see I've not got as much fuel as Phil because I don't think I need it. Infinity Decals could catch Phil. We know he's got the pace. James Harben, again the top 4, pretty close. Like there's not, in terms of gaps, there's a couple of seconds between us all, but with 10 minutes remaining, that all it takes is one mistake. James has got a little bit of a lead over Sea Trickle. I think everyone's now going to the end, so this is where we can sort of see what's going on. So Sea Trickle 5th in the Toyota. He's got a okay-ish gap over Surfer. Surfer's just ahead of his teammate Ice Chand in 7th. Ice Chand had a great start to the race. Terence then 8th place for Terence, but he's getting hounded by some VWs. I've got a feeling Mutt's going to have to pit again, you know, looking at his fuel. He's going to struggle to make that amount of fuel last 10 minutes. You got Gemini in 11th, and Marshall 12th. He's just done his fastest lap at 39.9. So starting lap 25 then, 5 laps of this race remain we believe. Phil then P2. But the important thing for me was not giving him the slipstream for this part, so that he can see me but he's not getting any aero assistance from my car. Infinity Decals' job is to catch Phil up now and start having a bit of a fight. And that's what's in store for the remainder of the race. Lots of like little battles just to play out, and little strategic things just to see how it all goes really. Let's take for a little onboard lap of Dragon Trail Gardens. I won't talk through it, we'll just watch. Alright, so last 5 minutes or so, a couple of laps covered in full for you. So I was talking before, I hope you enjoyed the onboard by the way, gap between me and Phil's now risen to just under 6 seconds. So I started pulling that gap a little bit, just set the fastest lap of the race as well, 37.9. Now, wasn't actually aiming for that, it kind of happened accidentally. I actually didn't want to push that hard, but there we go. Phil has enough of a gap over Infinity Decals for the time being. Infinity Decals slowly grabbing him in, but it is slowly but surely. You can see the gaps visually come down there a little bit. James Harman on his mediums, but taking it chill, to be fair. He just wants to consolidate this position and secure it. Be a good outing for the McLaren on its maiden voyage. Sea Trickle running 5th then, as was before. Just a bit ahead of Surfer Ev. Then we've got Ice Chan 7th, closely followed by Terence and the Mercedes in 8th. Has91 in 9th. This is where it mixed up a little bit because a few of these guys have pitted. Then we've got Gemini in 10th, just ahead of Mutt 36 in the VW. Mutt's doing well to, in fact he's just pitted actually to get some fresh tyres and enough fuel to get him through to the end of the race. And then Marshall had pitted. Gemini's gone very deep there. On board Mutt's to Gemini, he just broke late. Just too late, and there ain't no grip out there. So unfortunately, it's going to put Gemini out of the equation. Can Marshall get him? So Gemini's now back underway. But Marshall's done the same thing as well. Unfortunately, Marshall's backwards facing, unfortunately. Just trying to get himself back underway now. So Marshall had to retire from the race because of that incident. Lap 29 now. You can see I've slowed it down a little bit. I'm 38.9 that time round. So yeah, I didn't take any risk that lap. Comfortable second for Phil, still just ahead of Infinity Decals. So James getting rid of his mediums, and it does look unfortunately like the closest race might be quite uneventful. There's not many cars still running around, but we've got one more lap of this remaining. The issue with Dragon Trail, I guess, is not the issue with it, but the psychological thing is, you know, at any point you are facing disaster. You put one wheel wrong at this circuit, you are a goner basically. You can either slam into a wall, or the grass stroke gravel at the edge of the circuit isn't exactly grippy, and you'll spin around and you'll be off into the abyss. So that made a lot of drivers exceptionally careful, which is going to lead to a bit of a boring last lap or so, but you know, there we go, that's kind of it, I'm afraid. So it should be one lap. We've got just under a minute remaining, so it should be a last lap for everybody now. Everyone will get one more in. I'm just looking to see if anyone won't even go that far. That's 91 just coming out now with 29 seconds. He should be fine, so will Terence. Mutt should get another one in as well, or will he? This is going a little bit deep there at the final. You see what I mean? It's just a tiny mistake, and off he goes, unfortunately. Mutt's actually coming off the throttle now, so he doesn't do another lap. He's just sat waiting, look. So there's the 50 minutes gone, so Mutt's going to be the first driver to finish the race. Just ahead of Gemini in 11th. Back up to the top of the standings then. Now you'll see in a minute when we go through the driver standings, because Fat Pickles Bro didn't compete this one essentially. I think he does still pick up some points because he started the race. Obviously can't give him race finishing points, but I think he does get something for finishing, for at least starting the race. So I take the win. Then it's going to be Phil to claim the second step of the podium. Another podium for Infinity Decals in the Porsche, so still get some good manufacturer points for Porsche there. That could be important come the end of the season. James Harben in the McLaren maiden victory for the maiden outing for the F1. I said maiden victory then. He'll have taken 4th before, so I'm not sure. C-Trickle 5th for him, with Surf Rev in 6th and a 7th for Ice Chan. Good results for Aston Martin, good points for those two. Has 91 in 8th in the VW. And Terence had a bit of a torrid afternoon for Terence, but he finishes this one in 9th position. Let's have a look at how that lines up. So let's see where that leaves the full race results then. So full confirmation of the standings following the Dragon Trail Seaside reverse race. In terms of where that leaves the Drivers' Championship, it does it spices things up a bit with 2 rounds to go. So Fat Pickles Bro and myself tied on points in first place. A lot of movers as well. You see Infinity Decals has leapt up 2 places, so is C-Trickle, so is James Harben. So really starting to take shape now towards the end of the season. In terms of manufacturers, again, that gap has closed, so between Mercedes and Porsche now. So Porsche still lead the way, 193 odd points, so they're still favourites. But yeah, well, 2 rounds to go. Thank you for watching, and join us next time out for Bathurst. See you then.